Previously on It's Bourbon Night.
Now we're going to Jack Rose.
Jack Rose is
which
next
has been
up.
on the bucket list for forever.
Yep.
Jack Rose had a small selection of bottles for sale up at the front part of the bar, including some of their single barrel picks. But we're more here for buying pours. So we started off with a great baseline in their Knob Creek single barrel pick. For the next 4 hours or so, the hits kept coming. So if you'd like to see a video about the pours that we had, let us know down below.
A bucket list achieved.
Right.
Bucket list item achieved there.
Been on there for a while.
Made it up to Jack Rose.
Well, we made full use of our visit.
Yeah. And so did a lot of our friends who met up with us there, sort of a little mini meetup.
We were also there
Yeah.
for many hours enjoying pours. It was a tasting experience and it went on. We were there to taste and experience.
So the first one, as you've already heard, was Knob Creek Single Barrel. We find a lot of times it's a good way to dip a toe into starting a night with sort of a staple, something that you know.
True.
And there's never been a Knob Creek Single Barrel pick that I've met that I haven't liked.
That's also true. And when you walk into a place like this, like option paralysis happens. It is pretty intense. So when we were like, what do we want to have? When the bartender's like, you should try our latest Knob Creek pick. You're like, oh,
Yeah.
great. Like Chad said, never been let down by one.
Yeah.
Let's start there.
That was Joseph, right?
That was
In
Joseph,
in
yeah.
the very beginning. We also dealt a lot with Kyle as the night went on.
Kyle dealt with us.
Dealt with us. That's a better way to put it. So moving on, we sort of have playback here on the laptop that we're going to be watching to kind of remind ourselves. And we'll try to tell you what we can remember. I think the next thing we moved on to was this Four Roses single barrel, which was
OBSO.
OBSO, 10 years and 4 months, but another pick from
109?
From Jack Rose. You're doing it.
109?
109,
well, it's not
yeah.
that hard.
109, you're right, yeah. If you ask me which of the 10 am I normally grabbing for, I probably wouldn't say OBSO first.
I like
kinda
the
like that.
bees.
Yeah, I kind of like getting something that,
You don't normally.
that I haven't had the most.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, I typically lean towards like an OBSV. I'm basic when it comes to the Four Roses recipe, but I do like some bees, and like you said, you don't get. It's fun to try. What is that? 10% chance of being able to try that recipe? No, it's more than that because you got. I don't know.
Stop trying to do math in this episode.
More math. And again, this was one that he recommended to us as like, hey, if you liked our Knob Creek pick, you should try this other pick that we did. If you like Four Roses. He clearly knows us well. I don't know.
Yeah.
From there, though, Four Roses.
That's the 2014 single barrel. So when you and I started collecting the single barrels, it was 2015. So this was the year before this. This is one that we don't have. So when I saw it there on the menu for a decent price, it's like, got to take this opportunity, right? And try it. I think Ray had it as well. Sort of what you do, another like maybe way that you can approach a bar like this when you have the option paralysis is sort of first just scan the menu for deals. Like, oh, that's not a very high price. Let me see what it is. Oh, no thanks. That one's not too bad. Ooh, actually, that's not bad at all. And kind of do that, and that's
Choose your route that way.
Yeah. I was like, oh, Four Roses LEs.
Choose your fighter.
Let's check. Hey. That's a pretty good deal. So that's how we got on with that one.
And then I like to let, one choice kind of feed the next one. And the bartenders there were really great about that.
That's true, yeah.
We started out, again, with the Knob Creek pick. So then, if you like this pick, then try one of these other picks that we did that's a Four Roses. Because, again, we're sitting there like, there's so many bottles all around us.
Yeah.
How can I choose?
It's deer in headlights.
They work there every day, and I think they're really good at picking up on cues of what you like. And
Yeah. Sarah, every time you say, if you like Knob Creek, you might like this, I think of this old radio commercial. It was a TV commercial about a radio station. It was like, if you like Hank Williams, then you'll love 98.1 The Bull or whatever. If you like Garth Brooks, then you'll love 98.1.
Jeez.
So every time you say that, I think of that commercial. Anyway.
It's kind of like Spotify's chart.
Take two.
Oh no!
5 minutes later. Take three.
It's kind of like Spotify's Smart Shuffle in that way, and that it like knows what you like in terms of the songs that you choose, and it's like, hey, you picked these songs, what about this one? And sometimes you're like, ooh, no, I only want what I want. But most of the time you're like, oh, I haven't heard this song in a while.
Yeah, if you're at a bar, especially one that's like famous like Jack Rose, you want to rely on your bartender because they're not going to be working there unless they know their stuff. And the two, actually three, we dealt, they're all busy. So we dealt with about 3 bartenders there.
I like that too, though.
I didn't get the third gentleman's name, but because when we went over to Scotland, that's all we did was rely on the bartenders there.
Absolutely.
Like, this is what I like. This is what I've had. Yeah, this is what I've had. I like this type of proof. What do you got? And didn't steer us wrong once with the Scotch. I guess the moral of that story is just don't get overwhelmed when you go into a place like Jack Rose and you get
because it is easy
selections.
to.
Yeah. All right, let's move on. So next. The 10-year-old Belle Meade.
I don't remember how this one came about,
it was
actually.
Me.
Okay, it was you.
It was me.
Because we, at some point here soon, we deviated paths, which I think is actually the best because, like, we are married. Spoilers. We're married and we can share pours. So, like, there's no sense in us both getting the same thing.
Right.
So.
Well, I was, again, sort of looking for the deals, and I'd sort of landed in this $18, for whatever reason, no reason at all, area where I was looking at some pours that just happened to be around $18. I mean, that's not the least. It's definitely not the most. But I thought I was finding some good things, is what I should say, for that $18 price range. So that the Belle Meade single barrel 10-year, so that's MGP 10-year-old single barrel, which now here in 2023 is a much bigger deal than it was back when this came out.
Yeah.
So they had 2 Belle Meades, both 10 years. They're on the menu. And I love this. They bring the bottle there and they leave it there for you to take your pictures, to study it, to have a moment with it, whatever. So they brought both of them out there, and I was like, well, I know nothing about, barrel number 1422 and whatever the second one was. So I just looked at the labels and thought, well, that one looks older, like the label. They weren't exactly the same label. So I'm like, that one might be just a little bit, older. So I picked that one for whatever reason. And it was excellent.
Now, I feel like some people are going to have comments on where you were saying you were sticking this like $18 for a pour range and being like, I was looking for the deals. I can already hear people in the comments be like, that's not a deal.
Oh, well.
Which, it all depends on your perspective, right? This has been a bucket list trip for us. We knew the types of bottles that we were going to be able to find here, going to be able to taste. So this is something that we budgeted accordingly for.
Yeah.
Right? Like we've known always anytime we go there, we're not that we're going to have carte blanche, but we're going to be more forgiving with ourselves because we want to have the full experience.
It's like when you're on vacation, right?
Exactly.
And also because, not to put down Knob Creek single barrel, but we didn't want to just keep ordering things sort of in that vein.
And things that we can
modern
try.
day things that you can try anywhere. Now, a pick from them is no one else is going to have that pick.
Sure.
But we didn't want to just stick in modern day. We like to go a little bit more
take full advantage of the selection.
Even it's back just to 2014. I mean, that's 10 years next year, right?
I mean,
this old Belle Meade. So when you're looking for older things, a little bit more rare things, you're not gonna stay at $10.
It's true.
A pour. You're gonna be up there. So moving on here, this next one we actually did not try. At one
someone
point,
else got that.
No, I don't believe anyone got this. I asked Kyle, there was a glass case there, and I said, in that glass case,
was it of emotion?
What's the best deal? I had a lot of emotions. You can kind of see it there in the background. I said, what's the best tasting for the dollar amount deal in that? And he brought that one over, JW Dant from the 40s, I believe.
So I bet it was affordable.
But it was $135 for a pour, or $130, I can't remember exactly. And I said, I'm not playing in that area. So just lovingly looked at the bottle, but didn't get a pour of that. But that's why that one's there. I had to get video.
I mean, when you consider it's, over 80 years old, that bottle.
Yeah.
And when it's gone, it's gone. So yes, that is expensive for a pour of a consumable. And there are people out there who would be like, I would never pay that much for something that I can't keep that's tangible. But if you want to taste a piece of history, those bottles, how many more of them are left in the world? So it just depends on how you look at it.
So this was a little impromptu flight of Willet. Now, I don't know if we tasted all these.
We did not.
They kind of bring, I think just the two with the glasses.
On the right, with the Jack Rose sticker. So those were their picks. Kyle was telling me about how the owner at Jack Rose had a long-standing relationship with Willet, and so those picks and those bottles are very important to them. And they had a big selection of Willet bottles. So.
8-year, 137.8 proof.
He kind of brought a little flight down for comparison, but we just tried those two.
And they were pretty excellent.
I mean, 137.8 proof there on the right, you know. It was a good pour.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
Now this one was another one that I don't think any of us got.
I did not try this.
1960s old overhauled straight rye whiskey. Another one that I think was just a little bit out of the budget, but it was a recommendation. So if you're seeing this and you're going soon, maybe try that because it has been recommended. Right there in Maryland, 5th gallon. That's cool. Now this, I went this direction.
Chad deviated
as
and
well.
went older turkey direction.
Yeah, just because I saw that old Russell's Reserve label, and I'm like, I remember when they had that label. So again, looked up at the price. It wasn't that bad. So I got a pour of that. And
there's
then,
Kyle.
There's Kyle.
Doing the pouring.
And then this, a 1998 Kentucky Spirit, also from Wild Turkey. That pour right there was one of the best.
Of the night?
Of the night.
Wow.
Especially considering in price.
Okay.
You know, we had some real vintage stuff that was more expensive, but bang for buck, that Kentucky Spirit, I mean, just the nose alone.
How did it compare to that 2000s Russell's?
It was better.
Okay.
Hey, before we go any further, we want to hit pause and tell you about our home on the internet. It's whiskyambitions.com. It's where you can get the shirt that we are both wearing, hat that I'm wearing. Normally, we have Glencairns we're drinking out of. The lenses that can go on the Glencairns, though.
Or just a cool monocle.
Yeah, our new challenge coin. We have a new batch of bottle cut candles, and more always coming soon at whiskyambitions.com.
And you can become a patron at patreon.com/itsbourbonnight and join our community for as little as $1 a month. And that is where we release our barrel picks. If you like to see us try their barrel picks in this video, then you might like to try our barrel picks, and that's where you can get them. And yeah, join for as little as $1 a month. We try to release one a month on average.
At least. All right, we'll be right back. Now here is another impressive
this is a spread
layout of bottles. I think the only one that was actually poured was, well, I don't know about that
the single cask nation,
little charter,
right?
but definitely the single cask nation. So the single cask nation is a 24-year-old pre-fire Heaven Hill, which spent, I think, half of its time in America and then the other half in Scotland.
We didn't get B-roll of this bottle, but Ray from our group got a pour of the William Heaven Hill 12-year. I can't remember. I just call it William Heaven Hill Purple.
Purple.
It's one of our favorites, like, of all time.
134.4 proof.
134.4 proof. So he got a pour. It was up there on the wall. Decided to get a pour of it and said it was one of his favorites of the night as well.
Yeah.
And I can understand why. Yeah.
So the 1789B Old Scout was Kyle's recommendation. He said it was the best Old Scout that he'd ever tasted, that they had there, one of those two, maybe both. He was right. It was probably the best, if not one of the best Old Scouts
Ooh, I don't think I tasted that one.
Had. Yeah, you sort of went
Look
off
at me, I'm busy talking to everybody.
Yeah, you.
I'm being social.
There's a lot of our group, yeah.
Yep. Our friends and patrons who joined us that evening, and it was really nice because we just hung out in these, seats at the bar and just chilled, and like nobody rushed us, and we got to hang out. It's the best part, the community. Now over here, Kyle's showing me Scotch options because I said I want to go down a Scotch path. Before I was at this point, I actually had a Glory Days SMWS bottle that Ray had recommended. He was with us on the Scotland trip, kind of understands where our tastes lie in terms of Scotch, and he recommended that. That was one of my favorites of the night. Honestly, it was so good. It was I don't know. You can look it up. It's the Glory Days SMWS bottle, and you can trace, where that comes from.
I think I heard it was Macallan.
I don't know if we're supposed to say that.
That's fine.
Look at all that whiskey.
So you can see why we say option paralysis, right?
Truly wall to wall.
Yeah.
Not floor to ceiling, but to the ceiling.
To the moon, Alice. Now, vintage bourbon. This was a 17-year-old, which was probably National Distillers. This one, for the price, was a little underwhelming, if I remember right. Still really good, but
Like, maybe I wouldn't do it again.
Right. But this circa 1960s Traveler of Old Crow was, for 86 proof, still pretty excellent. Had that vintagey funk. Did you get any of that one?
I didn't, but I did get to try the 1960s Michter's, and that one was quite tasty.
Yeah, that one not so. I don't remember the proof on that one. Usually Michter's are a little lower proof.
I deviated from my Scotch travels to have a touch of vintage.
Well, here's your Scotch.
A little bit.
1990 Glendronach.
That A.H. Hirsch we did not have. I didn't have it anyways.
Correct. I think Ray said he had that, and it was also a little underwhelming.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is actually the end of my night, Chad. You didn't get. He just doesn't want to show anybody what I drank. Okay, so after I had the Glory Days bottle from SMWS, I liked it so much that Kyle was like, hey, why don't you do like a little mini Macallan flight? And then I also, there was like a vintage Scotch in there too. So it was like a Macallan comparison and then another Scotch. And I liked that so much. When that was done, I was like, hey, you know what? I am very interested in other international whiskeys.
Where else can we go in the world?
Where else in the world can we go? And he was like, have you had Indian whiskey? And I said, no. And so that brings us here. And you know what? I don't think I would have appreciated these before we went to Scotland and I got a taste for it.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed getting to discover these. And like,
I remember the one on the right was a little bit more Scotchy tasting than the one on the left.
The Marsala.
Which I just thought usually came with chicken. But
both of them were really nice. It's something that I would drink again. I would own a bottle.
And as you can see, they've got, you know, all the Buffalo Trace stuff, the Pappy Van Winkle,
all the fancy Four Roses.
Fancy Four Roses.
Look at all those Elijah Craigs.
Old Fitz, and those, you know, the more popular, more tater chased ones will be more expensive. So none of our group went that route because that's just not what we were there for. Again, we went more for what we consider to be value or more important to us because we know like that stuff is just gonna have the elevated price because of market. It's like going to a seafood restaurant and it's like, what's the price of the swordfish? Well, it's market price. You know, what's the market price right now?
True, I see that. I mean, yeah, it's more recognizable on the menu. More people are familiar with it, and it is coveted because more people are familiar with it. So that makes the price go up. Whereas some people might not be so apt to order that like kind of obscure, slightly vintage or more vintage pour that might be a little more fairly priced, still expensive, but a little more fairly priced.
Like an old crow traveler that's in a plastic, little thing.
Sometimes that's where the best stuff is at.
Don't judge the book by its cover.
For sure.
But I think we close out the night maybe with some single malt. This is some Westland single cask here. By this time, I don't remember too much of it.
It's a little fuzzy at this point.
We didn't have all four of those. They were kind of brought out as, you know, here's some good options. And I think we had that one on the right.
I believe that is true.
And it was good. I feel like getting more of a taste of the single malt, American single malt type of stuff. I don't know, it's very popular right now.
I remember liking it. I think my palate was burnt from the international whiskey, and I couldn't tell you much about it.
Yeah.
For anyone wondering, we took the train to D.C. We took a cab home. We pretty much walked everywhere while we were there. So
there's zero driving.
in
D.C.
So don't worry about us. And neither of us were hungover the next day. In case you were worried about our health,
Liquid IV, baby.
we shared. Like I said, we shared a lot. We spread it out over hours. Like yes, those were a lot of pours.
Smaller sips so you can have more variety. That's always our approach. You know. So there you have it. Not like a tasting video where we're giving you guys notes. We weren't taking notes, and we definitely can't remember
We're not taking notes.
All that. This was more just sort of
an experience recap.
Come along with us as we recap what we had there.
If you're going to be in the area, we suggest you add it to your list.
Yeah, there we go. All right, hey, that's where we'll leave it. If you haven't subscribed to us already, you can do so by clicking right up here. There's suggestions of other videos down here, and we can see over there in one of those. Thanks, Sarah.
Thanks, Chad.
All right, until next time, drink more bourbon.